All right, it's time for Life Lesson Live once again. Stephanie, we're back in the studio, and we're about to have a great conversation today.
Yes,
We
we
want
are.
to welcome everybody that's listening, going to listen via the radio, Facebook, Periscope, YouTube, okay? And we want you to know that we want you to join into the conversation. You can do that on Facebook by commenting in the comment section. We're here. We're not here to be judgmental or critical. We're here to have a healthy conversation because we believe in Life Lessons Live, Let's Talk edition, that conversations birth new seasons. And we've been having some wonderful conversations over the past few weeks and everything. And we're glad for your participation. Right now, as a matter of fact, in Tupelo, Mississippi on 94.7 FM, Kingdom Broadcasting Network, you are hearing last week's broadcast over the air. And that can be listened to all over the world by going to Kingdom Broadcasting or KBNradio.net. I'm sorry, KBNradio.net, and hit listen live, and you can hear that show. So welcome, welcome, welcome. Please join in. We're going to be talking today about timing is everything. When is a big thing to change. Change takes several dimensions. You know, why, what, how, and when. And we're going to be dealing with age appropriateness for parenting. And we're going to be talking about, influence and confrontational conversations. And we're just trying to protect people's feelings. Man, are we being responsible? So timing is everything. So
That's right.
let's join in. Last week, Stephanie, why don't you tell them who you are, and we're going to talk about just where we left off on last week, and then we're going to pick up on today.
Awesome. Hey guys, welcome. So glad to be back. Thank you for joining in with us again. I am Stephanie Monique here in Tupelo, Mississippi. Educator, mentor, entrepreneur, friend, sister, servant, auntie, daughter, all of that good stuff. All right.
All the good stuff. Amen. 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 So listen, we want you to share this. We are asking you, please join the conversation. Again, we just want to remind everybody, we're not being critical. We're not being judgmental. We're having a conversation. Conversations birth new seasons. There are things that I feel that it's time. You know, we talk about the law of timing. It's one of the 21 irrefutable laws of leadership that was taught by John Maxwell, that says that only doing the right time at the right thing at the right time produces the right results. And, you know, we've been talking about, last week we introduced and said that have we chosen materialism and greed over righteousness? Are we just after greed, being greedy and power? Are we just going for success? You know, long as it makes money, long as it's popular, long as somebody is able to benefit from it, it's okay, regardless of how it's affecting society, how it's affecting the next generation. You know, I believe that we got to lead by example. And you know, last week we were saying we need to become what we want to see. You know, and righteousness are we considering, is this acceptable to God? You know, do we have moral excellence in this? Is it integral? Does it display the pureness of life? Do we have correct thinking about a matter? Is this the right way to think about this? Is this the right way to feel about this? Does this produce the right behavior? Listen, when I say produce the right behavior, I want to say, does it do it generationally? Does it continue to produce the right behavior? Or have we started and allowed some things because of our lackness, sometimes irresponsibility, sometimes the loss of focus, that we've started an avalanche of immorality and unethical behavior? I mean, it's coming down even all the way from some of the most powerful in the natural realm and influential people in the land. We see it from the White House all the way down. That throws a red flags to me. That's telling me that this is time. We need to have some conversation. It begins in our home. You know, regardless of what anybody else does in the world, we don't have to allow that to affect us in our home and us as a person. Paul told us to not be conformed to this world, but be transformed, a renewing of our minds, so we can show that which is good, listen, acceptable, and the perfect will of God. have we left that? Have we left that? So again, that law of timing, only doing the right thing at the right time produces the wrong results. Also in that law, John Maxwell teaches that doing the right thing at the wrong time produces the wrong results.
Mm.
Another part of that law is doing the wrong thing at the right time is a disaster. And so there's a lot of things that are going on in the world today. We got to look at the children. We got to look at adults. We got to look at parents. Somebody has to accept responsibility. Okay. Somebody has to accept responsibility for the way things are looking. Well, we talked about last week too. Has a standard been lowered? Do we not feel anything is wrong? Is these things acceptable that we're seeing today in the world? Or, what do you think, Stephanie? And we're gonna get into a few more points and questions on this thing.
I love when you talk about the laws of timing. That's so amazing, and everybody needs to pick that up and read 21 Irrefutable Laws of Leadership. It'll help you. It'll bless you. But when you said, have the standards been lowered, where did we kind of fall off? And then quoting that scripture, doing that which is acceptable. I remember when we had, did like a study about children and how them playing video games like desensitize them to certain things.
Violence and different things.
Yes, sir. Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. And I think that we've become desensitized. Like, it has become so like dysfunctionalism has become normal.
Okay.
Almost. And I think like when we see, because it's subtle, commercials and it's just different things are everywhere, and so you get desensitized to where when you see it, it's kind of like, oh, that's just, such and such. Like, I just remember, for instance, let's just talk about marriage. I remember, my grandmother would be like, I ain't going nowhere, he ain't going nowhere. We under the same roof, you're not leaving, I'm not leaving. And I don't know, like too many options maybe have become available, when you talk about lowering the standards and, where is that standard of righteousness and doing that which is right, knowing what is right. And I think that sometimes we don't have all the information. Some people simply just don't know. We don't have the right information to make the right decision. You talked about making the right decision at the wrong time. That it produces the wrong results. And then doing the wrong thing at the right time is a disaster. And so I think sometimes we've seen those things modeled before us. And, until you come into a place where you really want to know more, you're around people that can help you and show you more, it's kind of like you're stuck. And I think some people have been stuck. Some people probably want to do better, but like you talk about 4 dimensions of change, they just don't know how, and they don't know when, or then maybe they don't know what.
So have we got to the place in that law of timing says doing the wrong thing at the wrong time is a disaster.
Okay.
Yeah, the wrong thing at the wrong time.
The wrong time is a disaster.
Yeah, the right thing at the wrong time doesn't produce the right results. Okay, only doing the right thing at the right time produces the right results. And as I said, I think that when we are looking at society, when we're looking at the next generation, I'm 58 years old. You're a little bit younger than me. You're a whole lot younger than me.
Yes, sir.
You're in your 30s. But you got to look at your children. I look at my grandchildren now. I look at my children, I look at my grandchildren, and the way society is looking, we just put my youngest grandson, he's got to go to daycare in just a couple of weeks. Man, I think about all these things. What is he going to be exposed to? All of these types of things. I know what I can guard and protect him from, and what I'm trying to be an influence in my children's life to guard and protect him from. But, now he's getting into a bigger world now. Now there's going to be a whole lot of households that are going to be incorporated into a room. And I asked my daughter, I said, how many children are in this class? She said 7. I said, wow. Okay, so there's 6 more opportunities for a different perspective of our life to be introduced to him. And these things that we got to consider. Okay, so we had talked about on last week, our parents talking to parents, our parents talking to parents and coming to the place of, well, this is the way I think about these things, or think about those things. Or have we come to the place where we're afraid to have maybe a confrontational conversation? A conversation they bring up a difference. When we embrace difference, diversity, unity is achieved.
Mm-hmm.
We need to come to some common areas, some common goals about some things. And the difference is whether it's potato or potato, that doesn't make a difference. What you do with the potato is what's going to make the difference. It's like money. It's like anything else. There are a lot of things that people are going back and forth over, but there are some things that God has set the standard about, and that needs to be our common denominator in this thing. And say, for the sake of the next generation, for the sake of society, we're going to make some sacrifices. It's not about my opinion, what's best for the next generation. Let me give you just for an instance, going back. Now, this may come up with some controversy, but it's okay. It's all right. It's all right. Okay. It's, let's talk about alcohol. Let's talk about drugs. Some people have no conviction about drugs or alcohol, but those are all gateways to bigger issues, bigger problems. Okay. And because one person is able to handle that, it could take your child to being a flat out alcoholic that destroys his life and the life of his family or her family or whatever it may be. And I think that we take those things lightly. I feel that, and people have a lot of different opinions on that, but I'm a person who was affected by alcohol and by drugs, not because of my parents, but because I picked this up outside of the way I was raised. These are all things that we talk about. Jawanda Johnson, I hope I'm pronouncing her name right. I think most of us have just become Wanda Johnson. Sorry, Wanda. She says, Wanda Johnson. She says, I think most of us have just become comfortable to what we're used to, where we don't see anything else. Wow. I agree that, Wanda. I agree with that. If you don't get in the environment of vision, your environment becomes your vision. And I think that's why we got to have conversations. That's why we got to talk about things, so that we can be leading. Leadership is influence. Make sure we're always influencing the way things are going to look like tomorrow, the way things are going to look like in 10 years from now.
Yes, sir.
As long as we're here, we should be influencing. That's what leadership is. Leadership is influence, nothing more, nothing less.
Yes, sir.
So are we leading or are we being led?
Bishop. Yes. So I want to go back to what you just said, when you just brought up the two things, like the alcohol and the drugs.
Yeah.
And this is across the board, but I know we're using those two things as an example.
Yeah. So, and we're not throwing no stones.
Absolutely. I'll give my testimony. I used to smoke and drink long time ago, disclaimer, okay? But I just because I come into truth and knowledge and because of my convictions, that's it. But I want to say this, like when you say, are we having those conversations? So I could have a conversation with a person who is partaking of marijuana, okay? And when we have that conversation, or when you try to find a common denominator, right? So that we can build and go from there. People, I have experienced that justifications start coming about, like trying to justify why I do, or the statement, this is me, I'm doing me. And we talked about that, what that really means when people say, I'm just doing me right now.
Okay.
So a lot of justifications start coming up and people start trying to outline why they do what they do. And then it'll be like, well, let's just agree to disagree. You do you, and this works for you, but that doesn't work for everybody. Okay. And so how do you address that when you are trying to, just really help people, because sometimes you can see that people may be deceived in some areas. I hope that makes sense.
Well, I don't think it's always deception. I think it's what I want to say is selfishness. I
Oh,
think it's selfishness.
oh
And
wow.
so I believe that when your why is big enough, you'll do enough.
Okay.
When your why is big enough, you'll do enough. Uh, so let's take it off of you. Let's talk
Okay.
about your children. Let's talk about if this isn't a conviction in your life and you don't pass that conviction down to your children's life, and your children gets a hold of something, and now they're lacing these drugs with all different types of stuff.
Yes.
And I know someone personally who was a brilliant young man, athletic, brilliant, smart, outside of his home. It was not in his home, but got into an environment with other children, introduced him to smoking marijuana, and now he has not had his right mental state ever since that happened. His
Wow.
education, his sports career, all of those things went out the window. Okay, so I think we got to bring it to something that's bigger than a personal opinion. Okay,
Okay.
we got to look at a bigger picture. That's another one of the 21 irrefutable laws, the law of the big picture. Got to look at the big picture. You
Okay.
might handle it okay, but what if you got a child who is not as responsible as you, that doesn't take the same precautions as you. They're a little bit more more of a risk taker, and these types of things. And
Okay.
this is how different things happen like that. And so to answer your question, let's take them to a bigger picture.
Okay.
Let's just take you out of it. Let's talk about your children. Let's talk about your neighbor's children. Let's talk about society on a whole. How do you feel this is affecting society on a whole? Because change begins with me. And if I'll change, I become a part of changing the world. And I think that's what we all have to do. And yes, it's a sacrifice. That's what the Apostle Paul told us in Romans 12:1, before he got to Romans 12:2. He said, present yourself as a living sacrifice,
Yes,
holy
sir.
and acceptable unto the Lord. It's sacrificial. Sure, it's legal. Sure, you say, I don't see no harm in it. However, could it cost you more than your satisfaction?
Wow.
Could it cost you more than your enjoyment? Are you modeling something that you would want your children or your children's children to be doing, with the capability and the possibility of it getting worse and worse as time goes on?
Yeah.
It's almost like just even food today. At one time you could just go outside and pick something off of a vine, pick
Yes,
something
sir.
off of a tree and just eat it. Now they tell you, wash that off. You know why? They're spraying pesticides. They're doing different types of things for a couple of reasons. One, greed. Some of it's demand. Okay. But things are changing and evolving all the time. And
Yeah.
so I think that I forget the saying, ounce of prevention is worth a pound of cure. An ounce of prevention is worth a pound of cure. Why take the risk? Even for your own sake.
That's
Even for your own sake. What if you happen to get a hold of something that is not correct? And now you're not there to raise your child anymore. Now
wow.
you're not there to protect them anymore. Now you leave them, or something happens to you along the way. And I'm not projecting fear. Are you understand what I'm telling you?
Right.
I'm talking about,
That's
I
wisdom.
believe in living in a realist state of mind.
Mhm.
Okay. I've been there. I've done that. There was a time when drugs had got a hold of me, so where I wasn't productive for my children,
Yes,
for
sir.
my oldest child. Okay. I got it together with my other children. Okay. So that's personal to me. That was personal to me. And
Yes.
that ain't what I intended. It was all about fun in the beginning. But the enemy comes to steal, kill, and to destroy. Okay.
And I think
Come
that's
on.
so good because you say make them see the bigger picture, because that's exactly what happens. Is that this is not necessarily about your life. Your life, when you have children, we're talking about children, we're gonna get there. Timing is everything, and making the right decisions. But when you have other people, that your decisions affect, you have to be mindful, about how you're making those decisions, how you respond to certain situations, even if it's not about, the drugs. It's even about, how you respond, or the way that your name is being talked about in society, what people say, when they see you enter a room, like just decisions that you need to be making with good sound judgment. And for me, what I'm saying is that good sound judgment, that foundation, are the biblical truths and perspectives from the Word of God.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. And it's being responsible. Okay. And we talked about last week that being responsible is having the capacity for moral decisions, therefore accountable, and being capable of rational thoughts and actions. Okay. Being responsible. Okay. And if nobody accepts responsibility, I'm challenged to the fact that things are not going to get any better. They're going to get worse. They're going to get worse. And we're talking about morality. Are we going to talk about morals? What's acceptable to God? Are we going to talk about ethics, having integrity, having humility, doing the right thing, even though you could do the wrong thing? What are you teaching? Your child is watching you. They're listening. Children are very, very smart. They're paying attention. And many things are caught rather than taught. I didn't teach them that. No, you didn't teach them, but you did teach them because they watch you. They watch you. They listen to you. They overheard you. I know you were on your phone. But they could hear you. They could hear the conversation. You think they're playing the game, but they could actually hear your conversations. Okay, you think they're doing something else. Children are multitaskers. They can do a number of things at one time. You think they're in the video game, but they're paying attention to what you are doing. Okay, they're paying attention to what you're doing. They're listening to what you are saying. Okay, and so, are we leading or being led? Are we leading or being led? Are we going to accept the responsibilities? We're talking last week about age appropriateness.
Yes, sir.
When we're talking about what children are doing today, is it age appropriate for a young lady to do certain types of things? She's 12 years old. Is it age appropriate? We have a lot of conversations about that. Well, it's a new day, you just old school and all those types of things. But yet there's more, molestations, there's more inappropriate relationships, there's more people being taken advantage of, and all these different types of things that are going on. And because you do the right thing doesn't mean that things will be avoided. But what I'm saying is we don't need to put fuel to the fire.
Okay.
So age appropriateness. Boy, could parents have conversations about that? Oh my. Whew. Lord have mercy. That's a hornet's nest. I'm asking y'all because you right in the midst of people who are parenting. I'm a grandparent now. Okay. You're in the midst of your peers parenting, and they're raising families and all of that. Woo, I wish I could be a fly on the wall. I insert some things sometimes. Guys, are y'all gonna talk about that, or you just gonna laugh at it? You just gonna let that go by? Do you think that's appropriate?
Having a conversation with I'm sorry, I was reading a comment. Having a conversation with one of my coworkers and talking about just what we're talking about, different things in their household and just in the culture, and talking about virtual learning and just how it's been stretching. Okay, the parents. Not stressing, but stretching. Okay, everybody is in school. Okay, and so really talking about how parents have sometimes, okay, parents have put more responsibility on the teachers, when it comes to making sure that assignments are done and just different things like that. And so when the time comes now for you to be responsible or to be present, there is like there's friction, and so it's like, well, why didn't you tell me? For parents, they're telling teachers, why didn't you call me or tell me when this was going on? I should have got a phone call, or I should have got a notice or a message or something like that. And so when you say, are they having these conversations, it's like you want to have a conversation because you want to see people do good, and you want to see the children not suffer, because in the end, we'll say that all the time, the children didn't ask to be here. But when you start having these conversations, it's almost as if people start retracting and like feeling attacked. And I don't think that everybody is saying things wrong, or coming at people very aggressive. But when you ask someone about something that they're doing specifically, or when you offer a way of solution, it's like they clam up, or they step back, or they get offended, or, again, this works for me. This is my household, So how do you?
So that's another conversation, though.
Yeah.
That's another conversation. A conversation I would have is that when we start talking about things that really matter, why is it that it seems as though everybody gets offended? That's a conversation.
Yes, sir. It is.
Okay.
Yes.
We can't back up because people have a wrong response. That's a conversation. Because we got to bring it to a point of awareness.
Mm-hmm.
That's a conversation that needs to be had.
Mm-hmm.
All right. And listen to a response. Get a response from that. I just didn't want to hear that today. Sometimes it's a situation where they are overwhelmed with life and situations and circumstances, and that was one more thing to add to their plate today, where they've been trying to survive, simply trying to survive. And so you making that comment or having that conversation is something they didn't want to hear today, because that was the 21st thing that they've heard today that they've having to deal with, make a decision about. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
And as I said, Stephen Covey says this in
7 highly effective.
7, how's it go?
7 habits of highly
effective people. Seek to understand before wanting to be understood.
Mm-hmm.
And conversations are had to get a better understanding.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. And I think that we need to do that. We need to talk about the cause and effects of things, why do we think? Why do we feel? Depending on the person that you're talking to. Some people are kinesthetic, so it's going to be a feel. Some people are see. Why do we see these things? They're visual. Some people are audible. Why do you think these things are going on today? And listen, or have we considered that maybe children are growing up too fast today?
Mm-hmm.
And now we're getting into then what do we think? When do we think we should do such things? When should we have these conversations with our children? We got a lot of things that are out there now. We got this internet.
Oh,
we've got social media. We got all of this technology today.
Yes.
Okay. Most of the stuff that I got into, I didn't learn it at home. I learned it in the streets. And when I say the streets, I'm not talking about bad. I'm just talking about from outside sources. Sometimes it's another family member. Sometimes it's a friend. Sometimes it's your friends that had an uncle that taught them something that wasn't age appropriate. It's exciting to them, and now they want to come and they want to teach it to you. You know what I'm saying? And now you're sneaking and doing things that you were never raised to do. You never, all of that, you know what I'm saying? But somebody knows that these things are going on, and there needs to be conversations about it, even conversations around the dinner table. We talked about that. When do I have a conversation with a child about drug usage? How do you think about that? How you feel? And then listen without being critical or judgmental, and say, well, I don't see nothing wrong with it. Why do you think that? Because you ought to have more intelligence. You ought to have more wisdom. You ought to give them greater eyesight. Leadership is a vision is seeing tomorrow today.
Yes.
You ought to be able to allow them to see 10 years down the road, where all they can see is into, it's 5 o'clock. They can't see the 7:30 or what they got to do tomorrow or what they want to do this weekend. But you're going to talk to them in a greater way that can add some substance to their life to help them make better decisions. But
Yes.
if conversations are not had, that type of wisdom isn't being imparted into them. Okay. Myron, my brother-in-law, says age appropriateness is like being on a two-way street with 6 corners.
Come on, Brother Myron. Yes, sir. Hello. I'm telling you, Bishop, listen, as you say, in the streets, it's rough in them streets.
It's rough out there.
Yes.
But what are we going to do? Are we going to cower down? Are we going to back away from it? I think we've got to learn. We got to find a way to have a conversation.
Yes, sir.
Even if it's standing in a grocery store line, just practice learning how to strike up conversations. If the person checking out is really, really slow, okay, and everybody's lined up, frustrations raising up and all those types of things. Start a conversation. Practice starting a conversation that could bring some solutions to it.
Yes, sir.
To what you're looking at, what you're facing, what has everybody at a place of being uncomfortable, frustrated, and those types of things. Just practice in the scenarios that you have going on in life. At work, I seen Wanda say that these things go daily. Kimmy Cassaberry says, I see this daily on my job. Do that. Strike up a conversation. I don't know, around the coffee pot, in the break room, whatever, and practice. And if you miss it, it's okay. Say, okay, I apologize. I didn't mean no harm. Whatever. One of the things that I'm talking about is society cannot be so timid that we won't talk about the hard things anymore. I remember our grandparents and our parents, sometimes if we're old enough to have those, they call them old school parents, but these were parents that was raising us. We weren't leading them, they were leading us. We got out of the way. They brought correction to us, and they didn't care how we felt. They tell you, oh, you mad? Well, you better get glad. You weren't going to emotionally manipulate them. You weren't going to do anything. All right. They knew they were doing the right thing. That was just it. That's the way it was. And so we got to get away from this timidness and letting children lead parents instead of parents leading the children.
And Bishop, I think also too, like what you said, like I made a comment and I said that some people are deceived, and like you said, sometimes it's not always deception, it's being selfish. And so when you understand that what you're talking about doing is developing, and so people have to develop, and when you have these conversations, you are becoming a part of the solution by helping to develop. And it's not one way, like if I have that conversation, I'm starting the conversation, but I'm being developed in the conversation as well, because I'm learning how to listen. I'm learning how to receive. And I'm so observing of the opportunity, because we're talking about timing. And I love how you said doing the right thing at the right time produces the right results. So you said this conversation that you had with this person, that could have been the 21st thing that they experienced that day, and it just simply wasn't the right time to address the situation. So as we are having these conversations and developing, it's like you have to assess when is the appropriate time. And I have run into people where no time is the appropriate time. Like they're just full of chaos. And at some point you got to just be like, hey, you stop. Okay, we got to get this together, and we got to make some adjustments, because you keep going around the mulberry bush. Like, you keep experiencing hardship, you keep experiencing loss, you keep experiencing, knocks upside the head, because you won't receive wisdom, and you won't receive instruction, or just a gentle correction.
Mhm.
So when you talk about that, assessing the right time, how can we do that? And how can we help people? You got to have a conversation, but it's
Yeah,
almost like sometimes you could be walking on eggshells.
yeah. I think that again, discernment plays a role in that, and sometimes you just got to do it. You presented a challenge, and right in the midst of that challenge, it has to be addressed.
Yes,
Okay,
sir.
you got to be candid with them. Do you understand that the reason why this happened is because you didn't follow the instructions that were given? That's a confrontational conversation.
Yes, sir.
Okay, or they're making their chaos other people's chaos, or causing chaos in a child's life or whatever, because they're not addressing their own chaos. And you do realize that the child is feeling that way because of the way that you're feeling,
Yes.
you know.
When you're
and,
panicking.
and then let them respond. You
Okay.
said something on last week when we was talking. We got to care. People want to know how much you care before they want to know how much you know.
Okay.
Don't give me your opinion and you haven't made me feel like you care about me. So sometimes you got to lead and say, listen, I really care about you. I've been observing you. I've been here. I want to help all that I can. I want you to know that I'm here for you.
Mhm.
And you do the sandwich thing, okay?
Yeah.
You tell them about the good things that they're doing before you try to introduce something that they need to make some adjustments in, okay? And then don't try to eat an elephant in one bite, okay? You got to do that one bite at a time. It has to be just a little bit at a time, and let them become receptive and let them buy into you. That's another one of the 21 irrefutable laws of leadership, the law of buy-in. Need to buy into you, that your wisdom works. Okay, your wisdom work. What you suggested, it helped me.
Hmm.
Okay, so now you are a helper and you are not an enemy. Okay, because some people was just doing it because they were offended with them. They were overwhelmed with them. They wasn't really trying to help. They was just trying to tell them how they felt about them. They wasn't trying to help them. They were just letting them know how they felt about them, or
Yeah.
what their opinion was about their situation or their circumstances.
Wow.
Okay? So you really got to care. You got to have bowels of compassion.
Ooh.
You got to have bowels of compassion. All right. And that comes from wanting to please God,
Yes.
wanting to do things the way God will want you to do it, caring about someone the way God cares about someone, really, really from your heart, wanting to see the next generation, to see children, to see parents do well, to ease the uncomfortableness that they're having, ease their fears. There is some wisdom out there. I was talking to one of my students the other night who said that single parent mom, child was an athlete, and athletes have a tendency to make little families up. So it was always a group of boys at her house. And she said, I was a single mom. She said her son told her just the other day, she said, Mom, I didn't even realize we were poor and we didn't have very much because you always made a way.
Wow.
She said that the boys would come over. It was okay for them to come over. Yes, it had a little pressure there, but she knew where they were. She knew they were safe. She was hearing what they were talking about. Yeah, they was talking a little trash and all those type of things. These are athletes. They're playing their video games, but she knew what they were playing, these type of things. She said they could get a bologna sandwich. They could drink her Kool-Aid. And God always made a way for her to have some Kool-Aid, be able to fix them sandwiches, some chips, or whatever it may be, because she had a heart. Okay, there was a grace that came upon her in order to do that. So to answer that, when you care and you have the right motives, there's a grace that comes on you to deal with even the most difficult person. Okay. God can use you when you open your heart up to be a help to them. Okay. And that's what people need to know. And conversations begin to birth that. People can't read your mind. They can't read your mind. They don't know that you're such a compassionate person. They don't know that you have this wisdom. They don't know your experiences. They don't know. Okay. Everybody's just kind of reading. They're looking at the Gucci. They're looking at the Louis Vuitton. They're looking at how many inches of hair you got in your head. They're judging the car that you drive, you know, the clothes that you have on, all those types of things. They're not looking at the content. They're not looking at the substance that are in people's life. And all those things are misrepresentations many times. Some of the people that dress the best, look the best, are the people that are the most messed up.
They need the most help.
Yeah, we need the most help. And so what we're saying is, and again, we're not being judgmental, we're not being critical, but you don't judge a book by its cover.
That's good, Bishop.
Okay. Have we chosen materialism and greed over righteousness for power, for notoriety, for popularity? Okay, at the sacrifice of the next generation, at the sacrifice of our society. Okay, where now anything goes, long as it makes money, long as it's popular, long as it fulfills someone's agenda. Okay, and the main agenda that we're fulfilling is a destroying of mankind, because that's what Satan is after. He wants to destroy God's greatest, most prized possession, and that's man.
Wow.
They don't care nothing about no cars. It's just steel on wheels. You don't care nothing about jewels. You don't care nothing about anything. You don't care nothing about this money that really ain't worth nothing. It's just paper floating around and all of that. You don't care anything about that. But the content of your heart, the substance that you carry, and the virtues that you walk in. Real wealth is the sum total of who you become, not what you have or what you can do. The wealthy place is if my home is safe, if my community is good, if my city looks good. Amen. You know, or is it a cesspool? Is it like Sodom and Gomorrah? Anything goes on here. You know, everybody wants to, well, yeah, I'll say it. Everybody wants to go to Vegas. What goes on in Vegas stays in Vegas. Is that a good thing or a bad thing?
Come on, that's good.
Okay, and if that's what you want to do, you know, that's okay. You're going to leave your morals and all those things just because you're in Vegas, or you can go to Vegas and be the same person in Vegas that you are at home. And if who you are at home ain't who you are in Vegas, then you're being deceptive, okay? Because things come out. You do realize that these are the days of video cameras. Everything getting filmed now.
That's true.
Uh-oh.
And recorded. Yes, sir.
Okay, you get a ticket in the mail now because you ran a red light. Thought you got through, but ching ching, then you get a ticket in the mail. $200, please. You ran a red light on such and such day. Here go the picture of your license plate, and here go a picture of you sitting up in the car.
Yes, sir. I have gotten one of them before. Glory to God.
So, just being a little lighthearted and still about it. But
Yeah.
really, you know, timing is everything. When do we have the conversations? Are we going to talk about age appropriateness? And when we talk about age, you know, think about that. We want to talk about maturity. Are they mature enough? But if we who are supposed to be leading isn't mature, oh my, we're still selfish. We're not willing to make sacrifices.
And carnal, Bishop.
Yeah.
We got to deal with the carnality of ourselves in order to produce these conversations that you're talking about.
Well,
so that's
are we simply trying to just protect everybody's feelings now?
In some cases, yes, absolutely. I have been guilty of that because I didn't want to offend, or just didn't want to combat. Like I said, people get offended. Yeah, and didn't wanna be, in that long drawn out confrontation. Just okay.
I'm
I'm
just leave that alone.
I'm just pray about it. Hopefully you'll get it one day. But people, it's like it's not going to happen by just osmosis. They're just not going to, people are just not going to be hit on top of the head with a wand. And so, I have done that. I have been guilty of that, of, walking away and just saying, okay, whatever. I think the more knowledge and the more confidence and the more truth that we have, the more we are secure in who we are and in our identity, that will help you to have these conversations. These conversations are evangelistical conversations. These conversations, that you're talking about having and asking these questions when you say, are you being led or are you leading? That's a checkpoint for a person before they can even enter into a conversation to say, hey, let's bring these things to the table to discuss them, to talk about them so that we can be better, for our next generation. And so, that brings a person in to really check their own self.
Well, I think as we introduced on last week, I believe it was the week before last, discontent is the first necessity of progress.
Yes, sir.
Thomas Edison said that. If you have not come to the place where I am not okay with what society is looking like, I am not okay the way these children are coming up, I'm not okay with what my home looks like, I'm not okay with what my workplace look like, I'm not okay what my community, my city looks like, I'm not okay with what this state or this nation looks like. We're not okay with this. You're not going to affect change. You're not going to do it. And change, what you won't confront, you'll never change. And so you have to become discontented. To be content is to be okay with a thing, not accepting it, but at least to be okay. Paul said, whether I be abound or whether I be abased. Well, some of these things is destructive. Okay, they're absolutely destructive. When we have young ladies who are presenting themselves as 25-year-olds who are only 13, and if you to look at them, the way that they dress, the way that they talk, the way that they carry themselves, sometimes these young men say certain things, and I say, you lying, that was a child, different types of things. You got women presenting themselves as men presenting themselves as women, all of these type of deceptive things that are going on, and nobody seems to want to talk about it. Everybody wants to seem to protect that, and that's deception. That is wickedness. Okay, it's wickedness.
Yeah.
And we want God to heal the land. We want all these things to go away. But the scripture says that we'll humble ourselves. It takes humility to become an advocate for change. Because one, I got to deal with my own mess. I'm not pointing the finger at you. I'm not judging you. I'm not being critical of you. But we've got to be honest that these things are not pleasing to God. This is not the way things should be going. And this is not good. This is not good. We may not know what we need to do. Okay, but this is not good. We've got to do something. Let's at least have a conversation. What do you think about that? I don't know everything. That's what we're saying to you on Life Lesson. We don't know everything, but we are willing to have a conversation, and we're willing to for your comments to come in, and we're willing to invite you on. And let's have a conversation. We're not here to argue. We're not here to debate, but we are into healthy conversations. Samantha Renee said this. She says, so if you have a conversation, do you prepare yourself for a possible change in the dynamics of a relationship if certain conversations are had?
Bishop, that's so good. Please, let's address that, because some relationships are no longer relationships that you have because you have conversations.
Okay. Well, are you going to continue to allow what it ought to begin to brings some, I don't know, just discontent, conviction. You almost have to get to the place where you say, I don't care. Once you start not caring anymore, you just about has disqualified yourself from being effective in producing what pleases God any longer. And you've become selfish and, and I know it's a lot of the adage that people take. That ain't my business. That ain't my business. But that business right there is affecting what your child is having to see. We talk about vision. It's one of our I can't remember who it was. Talk about what if this is all that they see? Well, if we don't change what they see, they're going to become a product of what they see. They're going to become conditioned. It's going to become tolerated. Okay. All right. And so that's why we got to, Samantha Renee, yes, sometimes the dynamic of the relationship will change. Sometimes it needs to change. Okay. That doesn't change your love for anyone.
Right.
I tell people all the time, love me enough to tell me the truth. Okay. Older people say they'll be all right when the swelling go down. They'll be all right. But they were not willing to I use this as a metaphor, to hit me upside the head. Okay. Because they knew I needed it. And at that point, their words was confident that they were doing it out of love. They were doing it out of concern, and they knew they were doing the right thing. They'll be all right when the swelling go down.
Yes,
okay?
sir.
There needs to be some injections of truth. That's the matter as God sees it. We cannot get away that nothing that is created and was created, all of those things were created by God.
Mm-hmm.
When we start being so arrogant and so bold as a human race that we have no regard, no respect, and no honor for God, we're in serious, serious trouble. And we got to teach every generation those things. Okay, we got to teach them virtues and moral excellence and correct thinking and feeling. And it's okay to ask people, what do you think about that? That's a conversation. And then we begin seeing where they're, and again, not being judgmental, not with an agenda. The Bible says to know those that labor amongst you.
Yes.
That you should say it takes a village to raise a child. Well, if the village doesn't have his virtues and his morals and his values drawing from the right place, that village can't raise that child, because you'll be confusing the child. You'll be giving a different example to that child, a wrong example. I don't want to be a wrong example. I don't want to be a stumbling block to someone. Mm-hmm. I'm grown. I can do what I want to do. But how is that affecting the person that's watching me, the child? What can I say to my child? Can I say to my grandchildren with a pure heart when they have conversations with me about things, to tell them the truth? And I don't have to dance around it. I don't have to say, well, da 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 da. Because a lot of times we can't stand on what's right because we're straddling the fence on what's right. So we can't have a conversation about that.
My point.
Because you feel guilty. You feel like you're a hypocrite.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. That's so good, Bishop.
So these are conversations, timing is everything. When I say we need to have these conversations, I feel that we've got to talk as parents. We got to talk as grandparents. We've got to have our teenagers talking to one another. I believe every generation has to take responsibility for each generation. Life happens. We don't always do everything right, but we acknowledge that was a mistake. That was a wrong turn. Okay. Mm-hmm. That is not the way things should be. I did this. It was not right. I'm no longer doing that. Okay. We got to be honest and open and transparent. Okay. Got to do that. but we also got to acknowledge I went left. I should have gone right. I should have kept straight, and I did not. Okay. So that we are believable and that we are operating in integrity. Okay. And things of that nature. So it's challenging, but change challenges us.
Yes, it does. Wow.
If you're not challenged, you're not changing.
Mm.
And challenge is a good word because it's going to make me draw some greater wisdom. It's going to make me better. Okay. And I'm going to have a right attitude. All right. And that's what we've got to do. We got to produce the right attitude. You said that sometimes it's tough to have conversations with people. And so we got to pray. We do. We have to pray. And we've got to, be wise. We got to be wise. Again, the law of timing. Only doing the right thing at the right time produces the right results. And I think the most thing that we got to do is make sure that our heart is right. Okay, that we're not offended. Okay, we're not offended. We're not angry. We're not frustrated with people. We're doing this because we love and we care.
But Bishop, do you think sometimes people get offended when it's not even intended for offense to come? Like the heart can be right, having a conversation, approaching, some dynamics, talking about some things, but it's taken and people become offended, but it was not intended that way.
Yeah. Well, again, this is a law of timing in place, and that's where prayer comes in, because you could have did the right thing at the right time, and it was them that had the issue, but it still needed to happen, even though they showed an act of being offended. But the seed that was sown in the right heart and attitude, it did something. Okay, it did something. You just didn't get to see the benefit of it. You've got to see the ground busted up. You got to see the ugliness of the seed sown. Somebody else will come around and water it, and God will get the increase, and somebody else will enjoy the bloom, the blossom, the fruit from the seed that was sown. What we have to do is make sure our heart is pure, our hands are clean, and to the best of our ability, feel that this is what God wants me to say and what he wants me to do right now. And you'll get better and better and better at it. And when you do it with that right attitude, the grace of God is on it, and it'll be good. Sometimes people doesn't receive like they need to, and that's okay. But just know your heart is pure and your hands are clean. And I just say to everyone, don't stop having conversations. We're going to get better at being a conversationalist. We're going to get better at dealing with the hard things, the things that need to be addressed. We're not going to allow the enemy to destroy another generation. And we're not going to be timid as a people. And we're not going to let people that are operating in greed and selfishness and materialism destroy our society. And, there are a lot of things. I believe, money makes you more what you are. Everybody's teaching people how to make money, how to be successful. But my heart and my mission and my burden and assignment from God is to teach people how to live. If you learn how to live, all those other things will follow you. I promise you. And you'll live better than you've ever lived before. Jesus said, seek ye first the kingdom of God and his righteousness, and all these things shall be added unto you. That's our time today. Thank you for a great, great, great conversation. I don't know, we'll listen to God, and we might pick up on a few more areas on this. The law of timing. Okay, when. We're not gonna do it because we're afraid. We're not gonna do it because we don't want to confront. We're gonna do it because this is the right thing to do. All right. So
Yeah.
listen, thank you all. Thank you for all of your comments and everything. We got to go. We will see you on next week. You've been listening to Life Lesson Live. Let's Talk Edition with the crew. Thank you, Stephanie, for all your input, all your wisdom. Bless you guys.
Bye, guys.